Howdy, howdy. So today we're going to be talking about how to be funny. So I figured we'd start off with a nice little psychological joke for you. So the first question is this: what color is snow? What color are swans? What color are clouds? What do cows drink? So you just answer all those questions. Go ahead and let me know down below whether or not it got you. But it is a beautiful little psychological joke, but it is pretty common these days. So why don't we go ahead and get started with chapter 10. We're making our good headway through this book. And as I'm flipping through the pages, I will be doing some live workshops where I will be reviewing my own videos to see what I can improve on. And if you want me to review your performances as well, you can go ahead and let me know down below. Chapter 10, How to Be Funny! Exclamation point. In the producers, the Mel Brooks film and blockbuster Broadway show of the same name, the plot revolves around a scheme to cash in handsomely from a surefire flop. What else could springtime for Hitler possibly be? If you, dear reader, can figure out a way to show a profit from an act that goes down the commode, here's my guaranteed formula for your success. I mean, failure. Early in your act, tell a joke, preferably a weak joke, one that you've never before told in public. When you get to the last word of the joke, stop, smile, and stand there waiting for the laugh. Repeat. Then, when you are ready to do some magic, change the pace by saying, "But seriously, folks, the sound you will hear at this point is the nervous shifting of audience members in their seats. Do not let that distract you. Your rags to riches death spiral will be gaining momentum. On the other hand, you may prefer jokes that trigger laughter, not groans. If that's the case, let's steal a lesson from America's best known comedians. Each weekday night, TV talk show hosts face the daunting task of finding the jokes in the daily headlines. Look at how they typically handle new material. And of course, in their cases, the monologues not only have never been audience tested, the jokes may have been reworked up in, until minutes before being delivered into the bedrooms of millions of late night viewers. Here's the comedic trick used by many talk show hosts: they talk through the punchline. That is, when they arrive at the final word of the joke, they often tack on a few additional words. An example from David Letterman: "It was so hot today. On my walk through Central Park this morning, I saw a squirrel moisturizing his nuts. It was just that hot!" Exclamation point. Or do as late night comedian Jimmy Kimmel does. Don't acknowledge in any way that you just told a joke. He just steams ahead with his conversation. If they laugh, they laugh. Either way, the worst thing you can do is to say something you think is funny and then pause, looking expectantly at the audience, waiting for the laugh. You can do that, but only after you are certain, based on experience, the laugh will come. The two hooks for humor. All humor in magic and mentalism acts falls into two categories. Funny moments that emanate organically from the situation. This is by far the superior choice. Funny moments meant to stand on their own, apart from the miraculous things we do. In other words, jokes or other gags. First, let's examine category number one, which can itself be divided in two. First up is the natural outcome to what we do, the humor that spontaneously springs from the moment of surprise, the eek! Exclamation point moment. Because that surprise is wrapped in a non threatening blanket of supportive fun, the release almost always manifests itself as laughter. When a woman finds an overflowing warren of sponge rabbits in her hand when she expected only two, her surprise turns into laughs, and onlookers laugh with her. Remove a bowling ball from a shopping bag. No one laughs. Remove it from a thin briefcase. That's funny! Exclamation point. Put a beer bottle into a paper bag, then suddenly crush the bag. We laugh. The bowling ball from the suitcase is great. The toned down version that I do is the 8 ball from the wallet. It's just a impossible thing object from a flat thing. So it's fun. It's good, and people love it. Among performing artists, only magicians can lay claim to those unexpected, startling moments of delight. Not every trick evokes laughter, but many do, especially when there's a visual non sequitur, a real bowling ball from a thin case. In addition to the shock of the climax, the best humor in magical situations comes from the unusualness of the situation. You want me to burn the envelope with the money inside? Or the tension of the moment just prior to the climax is when the spectator says, "If I'm holding the silver coin now, I'll scream!" Exclamation point. The second type of humor for us is the intentional use of words to raise a smile. And here is where we get into trouble. If you tell jokes of any kind, they are not intrinsic to the trick. You'd better be certain they are of comedy club caliber. Make that contemporary comedy club caliber. Henny Youngman and Jack Carter yucked it up on the Ed Sullivan Show with mother-in-law jokes. You can't do that, even if your mother-in-law does wax her mustache. We live in a time when almost any town large enough for an airport has a comedy club, or at least a comedy night at a local bar or restaurant. And cable TV channels beam buckets of cutting-edge clowning into millions of homes across the globe. Audiences know new from old, clever from pedestrian. And if you're smart, you won't take on the comedy pros at their own game, unless you're sure you can. I just point this out. I've seen it both ways. We have stellar magicians out there. It has been a point that an actor can make a great magician because they know about delivery. Very important. A, a comic magician, it just makes me roll because they are so funny, and I love magic. So I'm basically intrigued with entry level magic. I'll just watch it all day long. That's great because I love magic. But when you have that high level comedy partnered up with any form of magic, I'm in love. So if you're really good at comedy, you got me. Then you're good. You're solid. You just add something else to it, like the PowerPoint guy. I'm in love. I love it. It's beautiful. It's funny, and it's good stuff. Okay, so it's much better to find the fun in the situation. We have an advantage over comedians. We do amazing things, and we can talk. They talk, but they don't do amazing things. Unfortunately, some of our top pros muddle their entertainment message. Turning again to Bill Malone on the loose. We see even this top ranked professional throw in a few jokes that don't fit the spontaneous feel of the balance of the program. To a female spectator, "You would look good in 3D. That's my room at the." Oh, wait. To a male spectator, "What do you do for a living?" "Oh, okay, I'll talk slower." He doesn't need those jokes at all. Yes, they get laughs, but I don't think it's worth the admittedly small price he pays. To me, they momentarily jar the mood and detract from his image as Superman with a deck of cards. Ooh. The strong magic itself and his effervescent personality produce a feeling of nonstop fun. He doesn't need, and chances are you don't need, what many in the audience will recognize as canned zingers. When you do kick to the head entertaining magic as Bill Malone does, have faith in the magic and the humor inherent in the magic. All the best comedy moments in magic, every one, come from the magic itself or the situation around the magic. Jason Marr, just in the recent years, he has expanded to add certain things to his act, and he's talked about who he credits the people that he got this inspiration from. And one of the things that he does now is he gives an axe to a kid. "Here you go, kid." After this whole bit where he's like, "That guy didn't clap for you. Go punch him in the face. Don't do that. You'll hurt yourself. Here, use this." And the part about that really works and resonates in that busking situation is that he gets to allow the audience to participate, but he's also letting the humor of the situation be versatile every day based on how the kids react. So he really gets to develop this piece of his show that's just he's creating those magic moments every single day. My advice: script your routines with nary a joke in sight. Once you begin performing the trick, the humor will rise to the surface on its own, and then you work those naturally occurring laughs into your performance. This is especially important if you are not a naturally funny person. In my own case, after having done thousands of successful shows, I know I can make audiences laugh. But I learned early on to chuck all my crafty one liners and let the magic, or even better, the spectators, get the laughs. If you have any sense of humor at all, funny lines will pop out of you from time to time during performances. Or one of your spectators will spout a few words that produce a laugh. After the show, make an effort to recall the spontaneously comic moment and write them down. I never did enough of this. I would fire off some clever remark, one that perfectly fit the moment, and during the ensuing laugh, I would say to myself, "Well, that's staying in the show!" Exclamation point. It was so perfect, there was no way I could possibly forget it, except that too often I did. In the chapter after called After the Show, I remind you about the importance of consciously making the effort to recall and record the ad libs and funny moments that worked. It goes into that whole thing of the circular motion of your show. You're basically, I use the three P's of success, which is to practice, perform, promote. Now, promoting is important to market your things into public, but you might also be promoting yourself in the sense that you could be pulling the show, looking it over, if you're recording it or whatnot, writing down all that stuff like he's recommending here and later on, and then you really just want to make sure that you're re-adding that into the practice because you want to capture the funny moments. So if the funny moments have already happened, keep creating those funny moments moving on into the future. Like I don't know if Jason with the axe bit, I don't know if he thought about it one day, tried it out, and it really resonated and worked. And so now he had like a offbeat thing. Maybe somebody else was doing something similar, or he had an idea to do this, and then he's like, you know what, we could do that all the time, and it would just work as part of the show. Get to the point quickly. In the literature for high-end audio equipment, the term listener fatigue refers to the tendency of cheaper equipment to reduce the enjoyment of music over the course of 30 to 60 minutes. The effect, subtle and subconscious, has been studied and documented. A similar phenomenon takes place over the course of your performance. Bloated sentences and puffy punchlines fatigue the audience. Danny Orleans, in his Genie column on performing for kids, once wrote about the economy of words necessary for successful jokes. Whether for 4-year-old kids or bent over seniors, the principle stands. Unnecessary words blunt the humor. Danny offers an example in setting up the situation for the breakaway fan. He chooses a girl with long hair. When showing that the fan works, he fans toward the girl's face and her hair flies up. That gets a laugh. When he repeats the bit somewhat differently, producing another laugh, finally he turns to the little boy on his other side and says, "Watch out, her hair wiggles!" Exclamation point. And those 5 words get a big laugh. The way Danny describes the routine leaves no doubt that any adults watching would be laughing along with the children. Danny points out that wiggles is a funny word. Saying her hair moves or flies up would not be the same. Equally important, the joke is reduced to the essential words. A less experienced performer might say to the boy, "Did you notice? Every time I do this, her hair goes flying up in the air." That would also not my fault. This is what it says. That would produce laughs, but fewer. I think it's too many woods in there. That would also produce laughs, but fewer. In humor, almost always less is more. I don't know if it's just my brain, but like when I'm reading it out loud, I pick up on the grammatical errors more, and I've probably seen about 4 or 5, if not double that, since I've started reading this, which is not terrible considering the size of the book. And there was one in my forcing book that I was reading through it, and I was like, was this intentional? Because it's a forcing book. Was there something magically inherent in the book about forcing to force me to do something? And I was like, nah, they can't be that meta, right? Maybe. I don't know. Guy walks into a bar, gets more from less. Here's a joke I saw on the internet. First, you'll see it exactly as it appeared in what I would call the corporate speaker version. Every Friday afternoon, a mathematician physicist goes to a bar. He sits in the second to last seat and turns to the last seat, which is always empty, and asks a girl who isn't there if he can buy her a drink. The bartender, who is used to weird university types, shrugs but keeps quiet. However, when Valentine's Day arrives and the mathematician makes a particularly heartwarming plea into empty space and his curiosity gets the better of the bartender, he says, I apologize if this strikes you as a stupid question, but surely you know there is never a woman sitting in that last stool. Why do you persist in asking out someone who's not even there? The university nerd replies, well, according to quantum physics, empty space is never truly empty. Virtual particles come into existence and vanish all the time. You never know when the proper wave function will implode and a girl might suddenly appear there. The bartender raises his eyebrows. Really? Interesting, but couldn't you just ask one of the girls who comes here every Friday if you could buy her a drink? You never know, she might say yes. The nerd laughs. Yeah, right. Like that could ever like that could happen! Exclamation point. Now a more professional streamlined version. Every Friday a physicist goes to a bar, turns to the empty seat next to him, and asks an imaginary girl if he can buy her a drink. He does this for months. Finally, the bartender says, you know there's never a woman sitting next to you. Why do you keep asking out someone who's not even there? The physicist says, well, according to quantum physics, empty space is never truly empty. You never know when the proper wave function will implode and a girl might suddenly appear there. The bartender says, okay, but couldn't you ask one of the girls who come here if you could buy her a drink? She might say yes. The nerd laughs. Yeah, right. Like that could ever happen! Exclamation point. That's 124 words versus 202 words. It's the same joke, but without the potential for listener fatigue created by all the excess verbiage. As Shakespeare told us, brevity is the soul of wit. So there's a popular thing right now online where people do the math on how much an actor or actress gets paid for speaking in their movies. So they do a word count and then they divide that by how much they got paid to just determine how many how much money they got per word. Now, for certain people, like they laughed with Owen Wilson, they're like, he got paid $135,000 to say "wow," like that's cool. Uh, Roles like Denzel Washington, he likes to do a lot of speaking in his roles, so he theoretically would make less money per word, but he's still making a lot of money because he's doing a lot of talking. But compare that with, say, the Book of Eli, which was specifically mentioned in interviews, where he cut stuff out because he's like, this guy's just not going to talk. Similarly to John Wick with Keanu Reeves, he's only speaking a couple hundred words, maybe 1,000 if I remember correctly, like 1,500 or less, and he's getting paid a lot of money. And so what that says to us is this: we are listening to the silence, and it is deafening because we love those movies. And so there's impact with silence. So I think it's a very important distinction to make. The same thing going here is that even if there's not a lot of communication or speaking happening, said that wrong, they're still communicating something, but they're doing it without words, which means we have to focus more. And it also, it's not about runtime. It's about conveying elegance and conveying tension and conveying structure without the filler. Use humor with compassion. Sarcasm works for the right performer in the right situation, as long as it's light sarcasm, as with habanero pepper sauce. A little goes a long way, and a heavy hand with the sarcasm backfires quickly. Never become hostile, and never use humor to strike out at an audience member. Whenever possible, turn your jokes back onto yourself. What if your joke dies a silent death? Smile or make a joke about the moment, but never blame the audience. 9 times out of 10, Those Robert Orbain-esque savers we've all heard or used only dig you into a deeper hole. Master your domain. Jerry Seinfeld's Cinema Verite documentary, Comedian, exposes the unfunny work that happens before the laughter. It shows us in gritty detail that casually riffing on the fables of the world may look easy and untailored, but those who successfully do it for a living regularly fall prey to nagging bouts of anxiety and self doubt. And importantly, for the readers of this book, they approach their work with discipline bordering on fanatical. How fanatical? An article in the Wall Street Journal of September 25th, 2017, titled Jerry Seinfeld Breaks Down a Joke, contains this quote about his painstaking effort to get to the bare minimum. You're always trying to trim everything down to rock, solid rock. I will sit there for 15 minutes to make it one syllable shorter. One syllable shorter. A comedian's arsenal consists of words and his body. He has no tricks to hide behind. The words, the delivery, the timing are everything. For more on this, Google Seinfeld how to write a joke for a terrific video of Jerry explaining his work process. Comedians know comedy is delicate. A sneeze in the audience at the wrong moment can ruin a laugh line. Turning your head this way for a particular joke is funny. That way it's not. Every gesture, every word assumes great importance. Are you fanatical about the words you say? Do you give your patter the same thought and practice give your slights that you give your slights? If not, why not? Okay, so we are on to the personal highlight, entertainment highlight. And we're just going to take a little short break here. That's a lot of things to take in because we were learning about how everything is so important and we know this, but we don't take a minute to really think about it. What your appearance, what you look like, says something about you. The way that you communicate from your mouth says something about you. And it's not just about what you say, it's how you say it that's important. But what we're learning in this chapter is less is more, and that's important. There's a fine, delicate act, but what Ken Weber is saying is you should be putting in the same amount of work that you put in. Like I'm sitting here with my deck of cards, always by my side, or coins or whatever, and I'll be at work just fiddling. I'll try something new. If it doesn't work, I rework it and try it again. So I'm constantly fidgeting with techniques and ideas and putting stuff together and shifting around and doing all sorts of stuff. I'm constantly practicing. But how often do we practice wearing clothes? Like we just throw stuff on. But in reality, everything that you wear for a performance needs to be tight. Everything that you say needs to be tight. Now, not a lot of people are doing improv. And if you have experience with improv, that's great. But that's only a small piece of the puzzle. You need to have structure. So you write your scripts, you rehearse your scripts, and then you cut your script. Your rewriting is writing. You know, writing and rewriting, writing and rewriting. Rewriting is where the magic happens. So you have to bring it down to the meat and potatoes. You know, the solid rock, as they were talking about in here, down to the foundational pieces. What can't you live without is basically what it wants you to do. Here's the trick that you are using. Is it strong? Great. Here are the words that need to be said in order for the magic to happen. That's it. That's all you need. Then and only then, once you've mastered all of that, can you start to build something in the wild with the audience. See, that's the part that we miss, right? We want to build everything. We want to build the castle here and then show everybody the castle. That's not what we're looking for. What we want to do here is we want to build the foundation and then we want to build the castle with the audience. So that way the castle becomes theirs too. It becomes something that they can hold on to. It becomes a home. It becomes a place for them to go back to when they're gone. so that they can remember forever. Whew. Powerful, right? Powerful stuff. So, a personal entertainment highlight: Matt King. Matt King, the toothy country bumpkin fellow in the used car salesman plaid jacket who teaches low rent tricks to C-list celebrities on TV magic specials as a bumper between the real stars of magic. That guy. Yes, that's what I thought too, until I saw him perform live at a magic convention. Now I understand why he has a multi-year, multi-million-dollar Las Vegas contract. Unlike what we saw on TV, his live show flows and builds brilliantly. Various bits and gags continually reappear throughout, each time increasing the laugh value. Fig Newton cookies, as I recall, have nothing to do with anything, but simply keep showing up at inappropriate times, as when the participant has been trained to expect her selected card to be in his outside coat pocket, and suddenly there is a Fig Newton. Then when he seems to be finding cards in his fly, what should appear but another Fig Newton, and so on. There's never an explanation as to why they keep showing up, which makes the incongruity of it all even funnier. And eventually the card appears inside a small cereal box. All the while, he perfectly plays this nice but non-too-bright guy from Kentucky, letting his personality win over the audience, not to mention the fact that a lot of amazing things happen while he's on stage. His finale is the production, as a thank you gift, of a bottle of beer from a cloth he's been using for something else. Along the way, he also finds stuff in his shoe, including a stone that's slightly larger than the shoe itself! Exclamation point. Brief note here. I have been listening to Sleights in Mind on Audible, and I'm seeing a lot of these parallels. They talked about Matt King. They got in there when interviewed with him because they did a panel of neuroscientists, and they had magicians perform for them. So they have all these interviews and all these great things. So I'm more familiar with this after reading that book. So naturally, he has an unending supply of perfectly matched lines to go with all of this. I remember leaving his show thinking, "Wow!" Exclamation point. This is what professional comedy magic looks like! Exclamation point. In the years since that was written, Mac has become somewhat of a friend. Strangely, his real-life persona is a highly toned-down, smarter version of that guy on the stage. And that's a good thing. And that's it. Next up is paraphernalia, the articles used in a particular activity equipment. That's section 5, which leads us into chapter 11, which is sound and lighting. Because now that you've assessed yourself, right, you've got a show, you've chosen your material, you've dressed up for the act, you've got your voice, you've got your script down, you know how to communicate that, you're going to change it up, and you're going to make it seem, it's going to change the texture every time you perform. It's all great, right? You've got your language skills, you know how to be funny, you've really built this thing. Well, next time we're going to talk about what you need to do in the environment to make the environment work in your favor. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Whew. This was great. I'm really enjoying what we're doing here on the channel. Don't forget to click the book giveaway. Be a book sponsor today, and it's great. It's a lot of fun. I'll tell you what, I got another book sitting right here, and I'm hoping to get some more stuff going. We're going to do some live workshops, and we're going to do some giveaways, because I have cards and this ring just sitting here, and I'm still trying to give it away to people, and people aren't joining the giveaway. So we're going to push out a whole box. We're going to do a whole box of giveaways. One box, just put everything in it, and somebody's going to win big on one of these lives. So really do enjoy you guys. Thank you, everybody. And remember, stay positive, stay active, and stay awesome. And don't forget to subscribe. It's over here. It really helps out the channel. And don't forget to check out the video that's just for you. Yeah, just for you. Ta-da!